when did you get started in basketball?
Yeah, so my journey into basketball really started at an early age. I was about 5 or 6 years old when I got introduced to the sport. Really grew up around basketball my whole, with my entire family involved in it. My aunt's the head women's basketball coach for Fordham. My uncle's is Hall of Fame at Penn University. So was really introduced at an early age and just grew up around the game. And it was something that was fun. It was exciting. It was great kitchen table talk. Parents loved it. I loved it. So it was something that was exciting and brought me a little bit of attention as a kid. And so I wasn't bad at it, and just continued to go through the years of playing as a three-sport athlete, and eventually dropped football in about fifth grade. But basketball and baseball were the two primary sports that I played going through high school and into college. Well, I dropped baseball, of course, in high school, basketball through college.
So what made you go with basketball over baseball?
So basketball was something that was, I just it was so much. It was way more exciting for me. I love the game. It was fast paced. Baseball was fun. I enjoyed it. I was probably 5 times better. I probably should have stuck with baseball as far as a player, but I was 5 times better at baseball than I was at basketball. But I just love basketball. There was something about the sport, the fast pace, the camaraderie, everything that came along with the game was something that I just wanted to be a part of. I was passionate about it, and it just the idols that I had growing up were basketball, and just couldn't shake it, and just stuck with it. So.
I get that. It is a lot speedier
Mm-hmm.
than baseball is. Baseball can feel a little slow. So when was it that you decided you wanted to be a coach?
Yeah, so again, my journey started at an early age. I knew I probably wanted to be a collegiate basketball coach about high school. That was about when it started for me. I knew I always wanted to be in something in regards to sports, football, baseball, basketball. Three-sport athlete up to about fifth, sixth grade. Dropped football around fifth grade, and stuck with baseball and basketball up to about my freshman sophomore year of high school, and then just decided to be just to be a one-sport athlete, pursue basketball, because that's really what I wanted to do. And I think at that time is really when I knew I wanted to be a college coach. I got into basketball or I got into coaching for one reason, and I probably stayed into coaching for a lot of the same reasons, but for some additional reasons as well. And so that's I guess another story. But for me, collegiate coaching was just a passion that I had, and I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. I love the relationships. I love the competitiveness. I just had a love for the game overall. I was very fortunate at an early age with my parents. They instilled a lot of short-term and long-term goal objectives, even at a really early age for me. I mean, not too many 10, 11-year-olds are getting video cassettes introduced to them from Norman Vincent Peale, a positive motivational speaker at the age of 10, 11 years old. Not too many kids at that age are getting that. I was going to Zig Ziglar presentations at probably about 12, 13 years old, and what kid really hears that? But I embraced it. I loved it, and I was like, wow, this is something that's exciting. The energy and the spirit that comes behind just being a part of something bigger than yourself, and listening to those guys speak at an early age, I said, that's something that I want to do. That's something that I want to be a part of. And basketball, love that I had, can be used as a platform to do those things. And so, getting a chance to be a part of young men's lives, having an impact in the community, developing relationships, is just something that I've always been passionate about. And so being able to springboard those opportunities once I got to college was something that I did and I pursued.
How do you think that changed, like, your path growing up, having those influences that young?
It's a great question. So, because of those influences, it really got me to focus in on things that were more important. You know, a lot of people that I was friends with, I saw were really putting a lot of energy and time into extracurricular activities that didn't really achieve your long-term goals. And so I was fortunate to have, you know, perseverance and work ethic instilled in me again at a really early age. I mean, it's very rare to have people in fifth, sixth grade, kids in fifth, sixth grade really know what they want to do. And so I was lucky to have those the parents to instill that faith, to instill those ideals, and it really allowed me to just, you know, again, it really allowed me to focus in on what's important. And so when I got to high school, I was the kid that was, you know, wanting my brothers and my brother and my sister to rebound for me. And when other guys were going out to parties, you know, I was the guy that really just didn't go to parties, just really focused in on playing basketball. And sports was my love. And so I was average at best, maybe an above average athlete, and just wanted to parlay that into an opportunity at the collegiate level, see how far basketball could take me as a player. Quickly realized that it wasn't going to take me too far. And again, therein lies the reason why I wanted to coach, because I knew probably at some point the ball was going to go flat on me. And when it did, I wanted to be able to be in position to take on some occupation that allowed me to coach.
So you said that kind of started in college, like you seeking out coaching opportunities and stuff. What was that?
Yeah, so in high school, as I said before, that's when I really developed the interest to be a coach. I knew what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, and so one of my high school coaches was roommates with a coach by the name of Eddie Biedenbach, who played at NC State. My high school coach and him played at NC State. He was at that time the head coach at UNC Asheville, and so I wanted to go somewhere where I was going to learn how to build my own program. And I thought that was pretty good to have enough foresight at that particular time as a high schooler to really think that way. And that's what I did, and I pursued it. So I went to UNC Asheville, played for Coach Biedenbach, coached with Coach Biedenbach, and really, yes, I wanted to play. I knew I wasn't very good, but I knew that this was a great opportunity for me to network, to grow, and to build my intellectual property as a coach, and to grow from there. There was no better coach to be with at that particular time than him, and he had a lot of the same values that I did growing up that was important to me, and I really looked up to him. And I took a lot of what he taught me and instilled it in my own package and my own culture today.
What do you think you learned the most from that experience, playing and then also coaching alongside it?
Well, you know, playing at UNC Asheville, I got a chance to do a lot more watching than playing. Never really was a guy that stepped foot on the court. Really got a chance to take a step back and be a sponge and figure out how the game is played, how the game is played the right way, and to really listen to what he had to teach and really soak it all in. You know, I mean, I was the guy that was on the away games on the bus, just really listening to every word that he said. You know, listening to the coaching staff, how they approach the game, how they approach relationships, how they approach life, and really was able to take that into my next stage as a coach. Because after I left UNC Asheville, graduated from there and ended up getting my MBA at Heidelberg College, and from there it built from at that point.
Where'd you go from there?
So I left UNC Asheville, got a chance to play by a great man and a great coach by the name of Dwayne Sheldon at Heidelberg College. I was lucky to get that position. You know, I graduated not knowing where I was going to go. Got my MBA and was able to be a graduate assistant for 2 years up in Tiffin, Ohio. At that point, after leaving Heidelberg, you know, in May, as a graduate assistant, you have not a clue where you're going to be. You know, so your back's against the wall, and you have to figure out something quick, or you're going to be stuck in a position where you're forced to take on something that maybe you don't want to, where you don't want to be where you're at. And so, for me, I left Heidelberg with Coach Sheldon, and really just by persistence and a little bit of luck, I was able to jump on board at the University of Toledo with Stan Joplin, who I consider a mentor of mine even today. Great man, great coach as well. And it's a little bit of a longer story, but an interesting one. I took the position as a volunteer, at Toledo, and the volunteer position came with a title. And so, after I sat down with him and the coaching staff, I told him, I said, listen, I'll work for free as long as I can get the title. And that's all I cared about, because I knew that really was going to be the platform for me to springboard me into my next stage as a coach. And so I worked at University of Toledo for 2 years, worked for free, didn't make a dime. Another story in of itself, but it was a miracle that I lasted not making a penny for 2 years, but I did. And because of that, Coach Joplin really thought highly of how much work that I put into it, the perseverance that I had, and he hired me as a full-time assistant by my 3rd year. And I was there as an assistant for 2 years, continued for the entire duration I was there with him, and learned under the best. He was an assistant under Judd Heathcote and Tom Izzo of Michigan State. He was able to take a lot of what he learned at University of Toledo, and I was able to steal a lot of what he did. And I coached there with him for 4 years, and then left and went down to Furman University, which is in Greenville, South Carolina, in the Southern Conference. And had a great experience there as well. At the ripe age of 30 years old, after, about 8 to 10 years of being an assistant, I knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it as a coach, and took my opportunity at Lewisburg College to be a head coach. And so I left Furman, went to Lewisburg. I had a friend of mine call me up and say, hey, do you know much about Lewisburg College? I said, I really don't. Tell me a little bit more. And so he got me connected with who is still a really good friend of mine, Mike Holloman, who's the athletic director at Lewisburg College, and was able to get me an interview, sat down, had a great talk, formed a bond with the athletic director there, and just was able to have a good career at Lewisburg. We had great staff, we had great administrative, we had great administrators, we had great staff, we had good assistants, great players, and we were able to take 5 years and do really good with it. And that springboarded me to this opportunity at Aiken.
So what was the transition like going from Lewisburg, because it's a junior college, to a 4-year college university like USC?
It was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I went from being an assistant coach for 8 to 10 years at the Division I level, and at that level, you really have to you're a specialist, right? So you have to specialize in a couple of different areas and be great at it. You have to be maybe a great recruiter, or maybe you have to be a great organizer behind the scenes. But there are 2 or 3 things at that level, because of the resources, you have to be great at those things. When you go from that to being at junior college, now you're not a specialist anymore. You've got to be great at all things. You got to be a jack of all trades. You got to wear a ton of different hats. So I went from being on Division I staffs where there were 3 assistants, 1 or 2 director of basketball operations. You had full-time this, full-time that. But when you go to junior college, it's just you. That's it. It's you and maybe a part-time assistant. And I was lucky to have unbelievable assistant coaches when I was there that really helped me along the way, but that's what you had to do. You had to learn how to be humble enough to sweep the floor before games. You had to be the person that set up the shot clock before the games. You were, not only am I coaching in the midst of real-time game, but I'm looking over the shot clock and the scorekeeper. I'm like, hey, you got that wrong, man. What are you doing? Let's go. Let's get this going. So I was really a part of everything. You had to do laundry. Before and after games, I was setting out the laundry. So you couldn't be too good to do anything. But it was a great opportunity before I got here at Aiken, because I learned how to not just be a specialist in 2 or 3 areas, but be very good in all things. Forced you to be a great teacher at the junior college level, because every year you bring in a brand new class of 8 to 9, possibly even 11 to 12 student athletes every year. So you have to be a great teacher. You can't rely on upperclassmen at the 4-year level to be the leaders and the teachers for the underclassmen. You had to be that person every single year, and you couldn't take that for granted. If you did, you can pretty much expect there to be a lack of communication within the confines of your team. And so forced me to be a great teacher, and that was one of the probably one of the most fortunate things that I took away from junior college basketball, was being great at a lot of things and forced to being a great teacher and great communicator, because you just couldn't take that for granted.
So how has that kind of influenced the way that you coach, since you've gone from the top of the spectrum to the bottom of the spectrum, essentially, of specialization all the way down to you do everything? How's that kind of influenced the way you coach here? Because I'd imagine somebody else who's been at a 4-year institution their whole career would approach it differently.
Right, yeah. So we all make decisions based on our own personal experiences, right? And so for me, my career allowed me to be at all different levels before I got here. I was at the Division I level. I'm now at the Division II level. I was at the junior college level and Division III level. So I was able to gain a vast amount of experiences from different programs. And so what I learned at the Division I level was different than what I learned at the Division III level, which was different than what I learned at the junior college level. And so being able to take those melting pot of experiences and mold it into the opportunity that I have here has really helped us to develop the student athletes at the level that I would like to. I would say that if I hadn't been in a position that I was at before at the junior college level, maybe I'm not promoting development as much as I am now. That because I see how important it is from somebody's freshman to senior year to get better, to grow, to be coachable, to have high character, to have a strong work ethic. All the things that I've experienced along the way, that show me what somebody's developmental process partakes of.
So you said early on that you had reasons for getting into coaching. Mm-hmm. And then some of those reasons stuck around, but other reasons, once you became a coach, are what kept you coaching. What were those reasons?
Great question. So for me growing up, I had unbelievable parents that gave me a vast amount of love, nurtured me, energy, time, all the things that are required of great parents to put into their kids. And I was really lucky enough to have that. And they instilled faith, and family was important. And so growing up, I got into coaching, and they helped me along the way to see really what was most important, and I lost sight of that at some point throughout my coaching career. I got into it because of my faith. I got into it because I love the game. I got into it because of the relationships. Those things were important to me. But sometimes the business can be a grind, especially at the Division I level, and that's what it was. It became a grind to me. It was a cyclical process every single year. Recruiting, coaching camps, and if you're not careful, you can lose the positive perspective that you need to be successful at that level. And I got to a point where I was like, wow, this is, I want a family someday. This is a lot of time and energy put into my occupation, which is important. But if I don't change something, then I'm not going to last. And so there was a small window of time where I wasn't sure if I wanted to coach anymore, just because of how much time and energy went into the process. But So I started one way. I got into it because I loved it, my faith, and I got into it because of the platform that I could give. I kind of lost sight of that, and I had to regain that perspective. And I really had to say, you know what? It's not just about me, and that's kind of what happened. That was, when I say about me, it was about the time that I was putting into the process. I had to change my outlook. I had to change the lens and the optics and say, wow, you know what? Why am I doing this? Why am I coaching? And that was really what re-energized me and really picked up my spirit. I'm in this to help and serve the kids. I'm in this to help and serve other people. And when I changed my perspective, it kind of gave me new life. It kind of gave me new meaning. And so it wasn't a grind anymore. It was an opportunity. And that perspective has such an important element on when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, on how you perceive, what you do. And so that's kind of what transitioned me into why I started coaching and why I'm coaching now. And now I continuously try to remind myself that, hey, man, this is helping and serving these kids, helping and making them better, helping their dreams come true. The relationships that I have with those guys, that's the most important thing. And when I continue to seek meaning in that, that gives me a re-energized spirit every day.
Do you think those early childhood influences that you said most other kids didn't get, of those kind of positive thinkers and influencers, or do you think those influenced your reaction to that?
Yeah, and I think the foundation, the staple, the cornerstone for me personally was because I had to go back to my faith and what was most important to me, and those were the influences that I had at an early age that I didn't realize how important they were to me. But the rock that was encouraged to live on really helped me later on down in life, and that kind of was the foundation for me. So yeah, you're right. I was able to take what I learned, didn't realize how important it was at that time, but 25 years later, it resurfaced and showed me what was most important.
So what's next for you? What do you hope for the future?
Gosh, man, I see so many big things for Aiken. I see so many big things for the basketball program as a whole. I look to different challenges every day, and I want to make sure that we take this program. I want to take this team and help them help be a part of something that we just haven't maybe achieved at this particular time. And when we achieve it, we're going to try to achieve even more. And I think right now that's the challenge, is to continue to develop these young men, continue to build this program, and to try to take the program to a height that we haven't done or we want to continue to achieve to reach. And so, we've had some really good years here. I'm probably never really happy. I always want a little bit more, and I want our players and our staff to think that way as well. To not be just content with what you have, but to continue to just build on top of what you've already established. And so, happy with where we've been, happy with what we've done, but the challenge is to do bigger and better.
I do have to ask.
Yes.
Just like last time. I've heard that you have a hobby.
Yes.
Of collecting not just cards, but card boxes. Tell us about that.
So, again, the relationship that I had with my dad goes back to, we collected so many baseball cards, I can't even tell you. But the unfortunate thing for me is I got into baseball card collecting around 1988. And that was the height of baseball card collection. And they're worth nothing today. Nothing. But that was all I could afford at that particular time. So we collected a ton of cards. Could never afford the expensive packs, the 86 Don Russ with Canseco, the 84 Don Russ with Mattingly. But yeah, so now I just kind of, that passion resurfaced in the last 2 years, because maybe I look back and I'm like, I can kind of afford some of this stuff. So went back and just really did a deep dive back into card collecting again. And I don't really collect the cards as much as I do the unopened boxes. And so I have a cabinet at the house where I've just collected unopened Topps baseball card boxes. And it's getting too expensive for my blood now, man. I can only go back so far, man. I'm stuck on 1980, man. I really want that 1980 unopened Topps box with Ricky Henderson, but I can't afford it right now. So